Hello and welcome to Cloud Experts Unleashed. I am your host, Ryan Brown, and with me today is the xByte Cloud CTO, Dakota Clum. Dakota, welcome. The myth, the legend, Dakota Clum. Welcome here.
Hey Ryan, thanks for having me.
I'm always impressed and excited to have you here. Today we're going to be talking about some ColdFusion performance troubleshooting quick tips. So this is the last in our series that we're doing from the last year's ColdFusion Summit. Dakota's, I guess, is highly reviewed, we can say, his presentation he did there. So a lot of applause at the end of it. And this is the last of that series to kind of get you up to speed if you happen to miss it and weren't at that conference. So Dakota, I will go ahead and pass it off to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ryan. So today we're just going to talk about a couple tips that I've come across, troubleshooting ColdFusion servers. So we'll kind of jump right into it today. First, I want to bring everyone's attention to a utility that's bundled within a ColdFusion server install. It's called CFStart.bat. It's actually, in my opinion, a lesser known utility. But it has a lot of great use, especially when troubleshooting unexpected like server startup issues. So I'll kind of walk through a scenario today. Let's say I was going into my JVM configuration file and I decided that I'm going to increase, let's say, my Java heap space thresholds. And as we kind of discussed on previous video topics, you can increase your Java heap space natively within ColdFusion to give your applications more memory. So whenever you change that, this jvm.config file, it's very sensitive. What you pass to it, the spaces you make can really lead to issues. So in this example, we'll say I'll increase my, my Java heap space by 512 megabytes. And while doing that, I add an extra S and, I go to save my changes. All of a sudden, I have this extra parameter, this extra character in an argument that's unrecognized. So I've made my Java heap space change, and I want to go and restart my ColdFusion service at this time, or start my ColdFusion service at this time. And you'll see I'm met with an error. Well, right away, kind of looking at that error, that service startup error, there's not a whole lot of helpful information there. You could go and look in the event viewer. It's going to tell you to look in the ColdFusion logs. The ColdFusion logs themselves may not contain, that exact answer you're looking for. So what I typically do in these situations is I'll jump right into that CFStart.bat utility. And you can do so by opening like a command prompt window or a PowerShell window, and you can pass in that CFStart.bat, and you'll see right away it detected that I have an invalid maximum heap size, which is 1024 SM. So right away, I know that change I just made or was looking to make is causing an issue in my environment. So now I can go ahead and remove that extra character, save my config file, and then start it. One thing I would highlight or point out in this scenario is that whenever you use the CFStart.bat utility, just keep in mind that it would execute ColdFusion as whatever context you're running your command window out, or command window as. So if you're running it as administrator, it's going to start as administrator. That's not recommended for most environments. So, what you would want to do is, make sure you kill that process, or make sure you're not actually running your ColdFusion process as a CFStart.bat utility. So, make sure you start it up as your typical Windows service that has a predefined ColdFusion runtime user. So that's that. Just keep that in mind. Another topic I wanted to discuss is, in our past videos, we talked a little bit about Java heap space and that same value we just updated, and ColdFusion running out of Java heap space. You can continue to increase that memory threshold You could add it, you could have multiple gigs, but at a certain point, you really want to check and see like what's going on, especially if it's happening frequently, or maybe it's very random and you're not able to detect when it happens. Um, I wanted to point out a couple extra JVM flags that you can pass, and that's known as heap dump on out of memory error and that heap dump path. So what we can do in ColdFusion startup file is tell ColdFusion, hey, if you get a Java heap space out of memory error, go ahead and collect a heap dump on my behalf and put it into my C ColdFusion 2023 dumps directory. So when you think about an issue that happens spontaneously, or maybe it happens just briefly, and you're not able to collect diagnostics before it either recovers itself or ColdFusion's been restarted or even crashed, you have these flags at your disposal. And once ColdFusion triggers that, encounters that out of memory error, it will actually put a heap dump file that ends in .hprof in the directory you specify. So now I can take the contents of this heap dump file and determine, what is the root cause or what's causing these, repeat incidents. One consideration I would probably add is that, heap dump files can be very large. This, for example, is almost 1 gigabyte. If my Java heap space environment was multiple gigabytes, that file could be multiple gigabytes. So don't just add this command and forget about it. Because it will fill up all the space on your server. Kind of the last topic I wanted to talk through in a ColdFusion server environment is an error that users who leverage ColdFusion applications may see from time to time, but it's not always present, or maybe it's very intermittent. And it's actually related to the Tomcat ISAPI error. It's a Tomcat server error, very, very generic. It doesn't typically point to any ColdFusion file. It just looks like Tomcat service is unavailable. What that really means is that ColdFusion, the connector that it's communicating over, is unable to reach Tomcat to process that, your ColdFusion request or your component request. Typically, what we've seen that associated with is actually ColdFusion reaching some kind of connection limit. So that connection limit, could be using all the available connections within ColdFusion. It could be due to a stuck thread, like a CF query tag or a CF HTTP tag. And it can even be due to out of memory errors, or, your Java heap space being exhausted. So when we think about our previous conversations and kind of what to look for when those errors occur, you could go ahead and collect a thread dump or a heap dump at that time, maybe even using something like heap dump on out of memory error to determine, okay, what scripts are running at that time and what is actually getting hung. Those are my 3 quick tips for today. I'll pause there. Ryan, if you have any questions, shoot away.
No, you kind of cheated. I asked you some questions in the pre-show, and you went ahead and included them in the video. So you stole my thunder of asking the good questions. But yeah, all great information. So if anyone is experiencing these issues, then watch the video. Great insights. If you find you need assistance, please reach out to us. We're always available to help. You can reach out on social media, on LinkedIn, Slack community, as well as just reach out on our website, and we'll be glad to assist in helping you get your ColdFusion tuned performant, and having very little problems. So Dakota, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Ryan Brown for Dakota Clum, signing off. So everybody, thank you and have a good day.
Thanks, Ryan.